I imagine you made some money on it, though.
We did make money on it. And I flipped some. I haven't made any money, but I have always learned something. And I think that's when people are, really looking to get started and they have these expectations of, if you're flipping a property, an expectation of certain profits or whatnot. I mean, if you were to flip a house and you were to just break even, like you learned a ton that you can take and apply to something else and really be able to make, hopefully make some good money in the future with that. And, so just do it, like get in there, get some reps in, and then improve over time. But I think a lot of people are just like, they want everything to work out perfectly and the market to be perfect and all of the conditions to be perfect. And like you said, you're going to learn.
It's not going to be. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be comfortable, like 100% comfortable.
No. And real estate, like the best part about real estate and the worst part about real estate is nothing's ever the same. Like no transaction's the same, no client's the same, no house is the same, no deal is the same. And so it keeps it exciting. But, even if I think I've learned everything, it's like something will get me the next one.
Listeners, welcome to episode 5, season 2. This is going to be with Stephanie Lambardo, the absolute foremost expert on flipping, cash flowing, all of that. If you want to learn how to buy and own 29 properties in a 3-year span, well, guess what? She's done it, and we are asking the questions on how you can get it done yourself. This is an episode you don't want to miss. We're excited. I hope you're excited. And as always, thanks for listening. And we're back. Season 2, episode 5. How we doing, everybody? This is going to be a really spicy one for those looking to get into investing, maybe looking for a new mentor. Right across from me, Mrs. Stephanie Lambardo herself, the investing queen of Aiken. I'm just giving her that crown. Whether she does or not is up to her. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
I am good. I'm very good. Always good.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for coming down. Tickled. It's like a 30-minute ride down here, so I appreciate you taking some time out of your day.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here in Augusta. I do a lot of work in Augusta as well, so
perfect. And just to give you a little validation and accreditation here, you got 32 doors you manage right now.
We have about 25 doors that we've got currently in our portfolio.
Okay. And for those listeners, if you want 25 doors, maybe more, you did those really quickly. So this is the person you want to listen to because you're about to learn today. I'm excited. So tell us, Stephanie, a little bit about you, where you came from, how you got into real estate. Hear it all.
Do you want to hear it all?
Yes.
Okay, cool. How much time we got? All right. So I grew up I'm Canadian, actually. Originally, I'm from just outside of Toronto.
Okay.
And I found Aiken through horses. So a big horse town, of course.
Okay.
Aiken, South Carolina. And so I came down here to ride horses, and eventually I went back home. I got an accounting degree. I would have been a terrible accountant, but I got a bookkeeping job for a real estate investor. And so that's how I found real estate. I didn't have any real estate in my background. Again, I wanted to ride horses professionally. That wasn't going to work. Accounting wasn't going to work. And so I just fell into real estate. So we started working on portfolios of like packages of homes. At that time, there was a lot of the foreclosure inventory in the States. So we were buying like 50 units at a time, flipping them mostly.
Okay.
And then it just sort of evolved from there. I started flipping locally in Aiken. And I think I did my first flip, like local flip, in 2016.
Okay.
And then just been going since. So I got licensed in 2019. And started building my portfolio in 2020 with my husband.
Okay. So relatively fast getting these done. What does your husband do?
He's now in the family business, but he was a tennis pro. So he's originally from Argentina.
Okay.
So we're from all over, Canadian, Argentine.
Yes.
Yep. And so he's a tennis pro, and since retired now, he manages our rentals and helps with the projects that we're flipping currently.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Husband, for giving you some time to come down here and record them.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we're able to do this.
That's right. I said one of the ways to financial freedom is just to do a whole bunch of real estate, train up your husband, retire your husband through real estate, and then give him all of the work, and then you can just take it easy.
That's that fifth level of business.
That's
right. There.
That's right. So for any of you watching, you can try that strategy.
It's funny. It was my wife was working for the owners of some of the bars down in Statesboro, Georgia, doing the same. She was doing analytics and bookkeeping for them in her free time outside of the. It was great because it's called the Plaza down there in Statesboro, and so one of the benefits was like their parking lot was, notorious. If you parked in there for school and you weren't an employee, you were getting towed. Oh, really? So she had the best parking for school for like her entire career at Southern. Mm-hmm. Yeah, cool. But she was running the books for all their investment portfolios and stuff.
There you go. Yeah, it's a good way in.
Yeah, we're working on that. She's got a pretty good job at SRNS, so we're going to keep that going.
Cool.
So one of my favorite things I've seen you talk about was that you had a broker and they mentioned just like, hey, buy one investment property every year, and then you did way more than one. Yeah.
So again, I started down the investing career, right? Like I started flipping houses, and that's very much an active form of income. So if you're going to get into real estate investing, flipping is an active means of generating income. It's not necessarily passive. So I didn't ever buy any rentals. Like I still had that mindset that I had to put down 20% to buy a rental property. At the time, like I still didn't know how I was going to be able to do that. And a friend of mine told me to get she told me to get my fucking real estate license, but she told me to get my real estate license, showing me one of her commission checks. So I got my license, and it was her mother actually who said, you need to buy a rental every year. So I was like, okay, I guess that's going to be my path. And, I learned about the BRRRR strategy, which is to, buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat. And we use that strategy because it's essentially just flipping houses into your portfolio. And I think we did 29 units in about 3 years, and we've sold some off. We sort of over the last year optimized our portfolio, but even with that, and I think one a year is a great strategy, but just with everything that we had going, and we had a 10-year plan, we wanted to get there faster. So I think one a year is a great opportunity for anyone. Certainly people in the real estate industry, like realtors, need to be doing that. But if you want to go a bit faster, you can too.
It's got to be it's a certain way to make a living and make an income, but like anything that can do that, you have to like it.
For sure. And I think you have to be willing. We hustled really hard, and I was selling real estate full time. I was flipping houses and selling real estate full time. So everything I did was real estate. And so building up that portfolio was easy enough to just, it was sort of, there was a lot of synergy to what I was doing, and my husband still had his, full-time job. So we weren't reliant on those rentals to produce any income. So we could keep everything in there and just try to be really lean about that. And when we hit at the 29 units, we saw an opportunity for Nick to be able to step away from what he was doing, which was, just his time was a little bit more strict in that job. And so, yeah, we loved doing it, but we hustled really hard. We worked really hard for those few years, and, leveraged our team and money and to be able to do that. And now we can sort of take a step back and make sure we're still headed in the right direction.
Okay. So we had the end result, which this really isn't that long ago. So you've really accomplished like a lot of really cool things in a very short amount of time.
Thank you.
And it's something that I have really hard time getting my head around. So you're gonna coach me a little bit.
Okay.
Here. I brought you free coaching, right?
Okay. Let's do it.
It is the cash on hand issue, I think, for a lot of people. Right. How are you finding these opportunities, this many opportunities in such a short span that makes sense? Because there's always opportunities, but it has to make sense. You do the deal or no deal. Love watching those, and you break it down, right? It's got to have the 70%.
70% rule.
And that means, are all of your doors in South Carolina and Georgia? Have you expanded to other states? Because you look in other states.
Yeah, so we our portfolio, well, really we flip and our portfolio is local. And just because we're in such a great market, like Augusta is a great market to invest in. Don't come to Augusta, guys, we're full. No. Augusta is a great market to come to, and anything in that price point, because in a higher price market, typically you can't always do what I'm doing and it's still cash flow, right? So there's a bit of a balance between your acquisition costs, like your all-in costs, so what you buy it for and what you renovate it for, and then what it rents for. So just trying to find that sweet spot. So we've been fortunate, and we choose to just stay here because why would we go elsewhere if we can do what we need to? And it, when you're looking for deals and opportunity, you need to know what makes sense for you, and whether it's from a strategic standpoint, from an economical standpoint, or lifestyle. And you just have to stay focused within that strategy. And that's when the opportunities show up. So, I talk a lot about like creating a buy box, creating a type of investment property you want to have. And so if you stay focused in that space, it's like the red car, that red car theory. If you're looking for a red car, you'll see a red car. It's the same thing. So that's how we found the opportunities, and it's just shooting your shot. So making more offers, reapproaching people with the same offer over and over again. That's my favorite one to do. I don't know if it is for the other person, and just like more reps and doing it as quickly as possible.
Because when you're doing like your deal or no deal, these are properties that are on market. They're on market, and something that we're seeing more of these days. And I have a follow-up question for this too. We have so many follow-up questions. But just because of what it's listed for on the market, that's not. It's so worth asking that question, right?
For sure.
It's just saying, hey, what will you have in that conversation? Putting your offer out there in a respectful manner. Hey, this is what I feel it's valued at. It's on the table when you're ready. Yeah. And you just follow up.
Yep.
Are you having a lot of success now finding on market properties, or was that where a lot of your success was coming from, or were you using back off market channels, wholesalers? What was really working for you in the beginning? And maybe how has that changed as this market's flipped a little bit?
Sure. So I've always bought on market deals. Like even when I first started, and of course there was a ton of inventory when I first started flipping houses, right? So I bought stuff off the MLS, and we bought the bulk of our properties, our rental portfolio specifically, from 2020 to 2023, which was an insane real estate market, super competitive, like still really low inventory, and we are still able to buy. So the MLS was one of the sources that we used, and I pretty much buy off the MLS, and I have a couple of wholesalers that send me deals, some of which send me MLS listed properties too. So the MLS, I think, is a great resource. I think it's the best place to buy property for a new investor. And the reason is because one, you have a motivated seller on the other side. Like if somebody's listed their property for sale, typically most of them, not all of them, but most of them are motivated to sell. So you have somebody who wants to sell versus driving for dollars or sending out mailers or whatnot. And then you have an opportunity to typically do inspections. And then you have an opportunity to work with a real estate professional, which I think is really important for a new investor. So that's your opportunity zone, right? Is just looking at MLS listed properties and making offers with real estate agents and just doing that over and over again. It gives you an opportunity to do inspections and terminate. So you could go and look for other marketing channels if you wanted to, but I think until you get your first one or a couple, I would just stick with the MLS and be able to work with an agent who, understands numbers and can, advise you on the valuation of that property versus going with a wholesaler or somebody who's not a licensed professional to help you. So we still buy off the MLS. I was literally sitting in my car waiting to come in here, looking on Zillow at listed properties, and then just texting an agent to see if they'd be interested in my offer. So it still works.
It still works. How have you had to, over the last couple of years with rates, investment rates, everything going up and up? I mean, how have you pivoted, and what is working for you now?
So when we started, rates were really low. So a lot of our portfolio are at like a 4% rate. And so, and we did 10-year loans on those because our goal was to get 30, we wanted 30 doors in 10 years. That was like our thing. And we wanted to pay them off as quickly as possible. When the rates went up, we just adjusted the amortization period. So instead of a 10-year, most of ours are on a 20-year or a 30, so that our payment is a little bit lower because our interest rate is higher. It essentially doubled because some of ours are at an 8% on a 20-year versus a 4% at a 10-year. And so our payment is the same, but obviously the payoff and that's different. So there wasn't a big shift in that. We use a local bank. We use a local credit union to fund our deals on the refinance. And now I use private money for the acquisition, which is more expensive. But for anybody just starting, if you don't have access to that, you can use, there's tons of asset-backed lenders that you can use too. So
Asset-backed lenders.
So like a hard money lender.
Hard money lender. Okay. That's not private money.
Correct. So that's more institutional type money that you can use. You can find tons of them online. And they'll lend you money for your deal, and they'll do it for fix and flip or, for that BRRRR strategy as well.
But your 10-year loans that you were doing, that was like with your credit union.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So we bought everything with a private money lender, and then we refinanced with a local bank.
Okay. Oh, so you would buy money, you'd use private money, and then you'd refinance with the credit union right afterwards.
Correct.
Because it gives you that cash, quote unquote, cash.
That's right. Yeah. So, and that's why we were able to scale it quickly. So so here's the real story about the
juice.
the 30 doors in 10 years. So I found the BRRRR book and I gave it to my husband and I said, like, this is it. This is our plan. And he didn't read it. He didn't touch it. And we actually went on our wedding trip and we kind of had a honeymoon first and then got married. But so he brought the book, he read it. And it was basically, it wasn't our wedding night, but it was like the night after a wedding night. We sat down and went through a spreadsheet of like how we were going to execute this thing using the BRRRR strategy. And so he had a primary residence, we both did. And so he sold his primary and we took that cash, and that's how we started with the BRRRR. The BRRRR process,
the
right?
war chest.
We bought it cash. We actually bought two cash. We bought one with a tenant in place for like $55,000. And we bought the other one for $7,000 across the street, Little Abbeville. And we still have that one. I bought it for $7,000. And anyway, then we went on to use private money, and that's how we were able to scale a lot faster. So we have, an individual who will give us money, loan us the money, and that's how we could do it a bit quicker.
But the private money, they typically want their back within a year, right?
Correct. Yeah. Usually it's a 1-year term, and it's much more expensive. You might pay, 3 points or 6 points even with like a 10 or a 12% interest rate. So we factor in those costs. So when we're buying with that money, we need to buy a lot deeper so that we can cover it. But when we do the refinance, it covers, all of those costs.
Maybe I'm a bit of an anxious person when it comes to like the leverage and the spreadsheets and stuff. Do you find you had that at all in you a little bit anxiety?
Me, no.
No? Okay.
No. I'm like, let's just leverage it all. No, and I think I've developed that probably over time, but when I started, I would look at every deal from every angle, right? Like worst case scenario, and even still you might look at like a break even. So if you're thinking like, okay, getting into whether it's a flip or a rental, what's a worst that could happen? And can I just repay this loan if I were to sell the property? And typically what you're buying has enough room in it that you could do that. So I think that removes my anxiety, is just know, there's always an exit. There's always something you can do with it.
Like if it gets to worst case,
Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe earlier this year, a lot of people, one of the questions was, hey, if I buy this and, I got to refinance, the rate's going to be more expensive when I have to refinance. Less expensive. Well, what's really the worst case is if you can get out of it before that year's up, if you're messing with the private money lending, you can get out of it. You've got it at a number where you could offload the property fairly, now looking back, where the interest rates are going, you'd been okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, again, you can't time the market, right? So yeah, the interest rates could go up, could keep going up, or they could go down. And so you could adjust, like we had to adjust with the amortization schedule. So, we just had to make our loan, go over a longer period of time to make the cash flow work. And if you're looking at if you're looking at a BRRRR perspective, a BRRRR is essentially a flip. You're just flipping it into your portfolio. Mm-hmm. So that equity that you're creating there is enough of a spread to flip it. So if the interest rates didn't work, or the cash flow didn't work, or you did it and you're like, I don't really want to have a rental property, you can always just turn around and sell it. If the conditions of the market or life or whatever, there's always something you can do. I mean, we did that. We bought a triplex in Augusta, and it would have cash flowed really well. The numbers were all there, and, we put a lot of work into it, and we were going to hold it, and we didn't want to. I mean, we didn't want to deal with the area. We didn't want to deal with going into Augusta. My husband was managing it, and he didn't want to go to Augusta, and so we just sold it. Just changed it. Mm-hmm.
Said, we're trying to get out, and I'm sure managing a triplex, flipping a triplex, you probably learned some things, and learn free education is pretty valuable.
For sure. And I
imagine you made some money on it, though.
We did make money on it. And I flipped some. I haven't made any money, but I have always learned something. And I think that's when people are, really looking to get started, and they have these expectations of, if you're flipping a property, an expectation of certain profits or whatnot. I mean, if you were to flip a house and you were to just break even, like, you learned a ton that you can take and apply to something else and really be able to make, hopefully make some good money in the future with that. And, so just do it, like, get in there, get some reps in, and then improve over time. But I think a lot of people are just like, they want everything to work out perfectly and the market to be perfect and all of the conditions to be perfect. And like you said, you're going to learn. It's not
going to be. It's never going to be perfect. It's never going to be comfortable, like 100% comfortable.
No. And real estate, like, the best part about real estate and the worst part about real estate is nothing's ever the same. Like, no transaction's the same, no client's the same, no house is the same, no deal is the same. And so it keeps it exciting. But, even if I think I've learned everything, it's like something will get me the next one.
So. What are some of I want to hear, like, do you have like those one or two lessons you've learned that have just made you just such an exponentially better at what you're trying to do?
Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that I have learned is to not change. Now, I say that there's always an exit strategy, but is to not change your plan. So, and I'm going to speak with flips specifically, but so if you're buying a property, you do an initial analysis on the deal, right? And how much money you're going to make and what you're going to do and your renovations. And don't change your end result or your projections like midway through. Like, don't start to over improve the property because you think you have the best deal on the block. Don't drastically change your plan or your ARV because we start to get emotional about it.
Made that mistake.
See? And so, yeah, I think that was one of my biggest ones is, we looked at a property. Well, it's 2 in 1. We looked at a property and, we found out there were some issues with the house, and instead of what we should have done was abandon ship, and we had some non-refundable earnest money, and we should have just walked away from that, truthfully. But we were like, no, we're going to do this whole other thing. And we just created what we thought was a good opportunity, and it wasn't, because we were acting out of emotion instead of really trusting the data.
Just checks in all the boxes except for the spreadsheet, which is the most important thing at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Is it the most important thing at the end of the day? Is the spreadsheet the most important thing?
Like your numbers?
Right.
I think you need to trust your numbers. Yeah, I think you need to trust the data and trust your numbers. And I think that goes across the board. So if you have a number that you need to make an offer on, that's your number. Just make your offer, start there with making your offer. Same with your reno budget and your after repaired value. So now there are going to be things that change. New comps come on, or, plumbing, something's up with the plumbing. But you always have to check back to your numbers and your original plan and not get emotional and deviate it from it.
Okay. How good's your head math?
It's not good.
Not good.
It's not good. What are you gonna? What is this, a math quiz?
We're gonna do a new segment. It's called "Call Matt a Dummy" on camera. Let's do this. I have a pretty interesting situation.
Okay.
So this is very interesting because I'm trying to get into the investing to the doors space. Okay. So if for the listeners, this is how good her coaching is going to be, which we'll talk about later.
Okay.
So we'll put this to the test. We'll put a little live product in here.
Okay.
Okay. So I have currently one home in Martinez. Okay. All in utilities, mortgage, everything. About $1,200 a month total. Okay. We have about $100,000 in equity into it. Okay. We have a tenant in there who we did a midterm furnished rental. Okay. If I was more patient, I probably could do about $2,200 a month. But right now they're doing $2,000 a month. Okay. So roughly cash flowing $800 a month on that.
Okay.
We have a second townhome in Evans, 40 on that. Okay. ARV or not ARV, it's ready to go, but values about 100. We have 160,000 equity. I reckon market value is about 200, maybe 180 at worst. Okay. So but let's just say 160,000 equity. Projected about $1,800, $1,600 a month in rent. Once we were gonna, I love the midterm rentals. The furnished midterm rental. I'm that's my thing. Okay. Hit me with those 6-month contracts. Okay. So we have those, and we bought our forever home in North Augusta. We're going to pull money out of the townhome. And we're actually going to move our mother-in-law into the backyard, do a cottage sort of thing. Okay. What can I do with that equity? What's the most efficient thing to do with that equity if we want to roll that into our next project?
So you're going to do probably on the first one, if your payment's already at $1,200, you're probably just going to leave that equity in there. I would think that $100K, because unless you can do a cash out refinance on it, but your payment's already, $1,200.
Yeah, cash out refinance, HELOC. There's all sorts of ways to use the money, the equity. What's the best way to do that? Even tap into it.
So on the first one, if you've got $100,000, your payment's already at $1,200, you've got $800 in cash flow. So I probably wouldn't do anything with that. You could get a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. So you're basically just borrowing against that $100K. So you wouldn't actually change your loan or anything like that there, but that would give you some money, some cash to be able to put down into something else if you wanted. You can always take the HELOC out. Now, I'm not a lender. That's not my area of expertise, but you could take out a HELOC and then you have some cash if there was another opportunity that came up, right? So that would be good. And then the other one where you've got, a bunch of equity in it, I would refinance the property. So you said you owe 40 on it. You would go to your bank and you would say, okay, hey, Mr. Lender, I've got this house. It's worth $200,000 and I want to, refinance it. They'll give you typically 75% of the value, right? So that would be, 150,000,
close,
something like that.
Yep.
And I don't have my calculator. So they give you 150K, and with that 150K, you could go and buy a whole other house. You have to make sure it cash flows, of course. So I don't know what your rents would be over there. So if it would cash flow on the new loan, even if it would only cash flow $300, $400, that's my baseline number. You could take that 100. Now we do long-term. I don't do any furnished or shorter term rentals, but I want to get at least $300 a month in cash flow after everything's paid for, taxes, property management, all that. So then you can take that 150,000 and you could basically buy a whole other property. And then you take that 150, you go and buy a new house for 100K. You put 30,000 of renovations in. I mean, again, assuming we can find it. And then you would do the same thing. You'd force appreciation in that house. Now the house is worth, let's just say, 200,000 again. You do a cash out refinance and you take your 150 back, and then you repeat. And so that's what I would do with the money.
Okay, so we don't touch the 100,000. The other half, that's gotta build up more before we can really start playing with that.
I mean, you could, I think you could take, I don't think it would make sense to do like a cash out refinance, but you could. I mean, you would just go to the spreadsheet, you punch all of the numbers in, and you see what that would look like.
Okay.
But if you don't, you may not need it. And you could take a HELOC, so then you had that extra capital available if you wanted. But it's okay to leave some equity sitting in there too.
But we want to make sure that when we're pulling money out of a property, that's our cash budget. We don't want to be using that as more of a down payment on another property. We want to be able to buy something outright with the money we're withdrawing from our previous property.
So I would, so that's how you're going to be able to just scale really quickly, and you're going to be building a ton of equity that way. Because if you were to do the same thing, just like simple math of the example that we've been using, each one's worth 200,000, and you do the refinance at 150 each time. Now you're leaving 50K of equity in each property and are cash flowing. So you're building up, you could do a few of those a year. You've just added $200,000 to your net worth, plus you have a cash flowing asset, and it didn't cost you anything. I mean, you haven't left anything in the deal. So that's what I would do. If you wanted to go a more conventional route, you could take that 100 and you could put 20% down on each. But once that cash runs out, then you got to rebuild it all again. So it just takes longer.
I like it. Okay. So you get your platform, the school's platform, right? And what's this coaching going to encompass?
So I started this last year in spring of 2023. I decided to start to mentor people in the real estate investing space. So I saw some people online doing it, and specifically, I saw one person, and I was like, I know I have more experience than they do doing this thing. And so I was like, I'm going to give this a shot. And I wanted to do a little bit more than, just flip houses and work with clients. I wanted to be able to help other people do the same thing I was doing. So I started Flip an Empire. And originally I was just it was focused around working with people in real estate, so real estate agents, because I do believe that if you have a real estate license, that you must be investing in real estate. And then it's just sort of evolved from there who I'm working with. So right now I have two sort of programs. I've just launched one, which is for brand new investors just looking to get started, dipping their toe in the water. And that's kind of a space for people to gain a little bit of clarity and confidence, because often they're like, okay, I think I want to invest, but I don't know what to do. And so it's to help them find the path that they need to be on right now, and then some confidence to know that it's possible for them and they can do those things. And then my other group is more for people who are actively investing. And so either they've done a couple of deals or on their first deal, or they're sort of looking to scale up. So those are my two primary groups that I work with. We're on School, which is a community platform backed by Alex Hormozy. And it's just been really good. The platform, I think, is going to be the next next form of social media, like the next Instagram or Facebook, but strictly for communities and collaboration. Whereas on Instagram, you're sitting there, as an authority figure, an expert, sort of blasting out to the masses. But if you can bring people into a community space, you can actually interact and answer questions, better in a more, collaborative
you see that
place.
With Discord, Slack, all those. They have their little communities. And yeah, okay. Okay, awesome. You're year in, and how's it going for you so far?
It's going very well. I really enjoy it. I enjoy helping people see that something like that is possible for them, and to be able to just take the next step, right? So
a cool success story you'd like to share?
Cool success story. One of the first women I started mentoring with, she went through 2 or 3 deals, just analyzing them, put properties under contract, and but her first flip, she cleared $75,000. She got a real estate license while she was doing it. She made $75K, and learned a ton. And it was the best part was during the process, she was like, I've done a lot of really hard things, but I've done them and I've been able to overcome and move forward with it. And most of the students I've worked with, I've had some who, made a little bit of money, not a lot, but learned a lot. And but most have gone on to buy or flip their next property, and so that's been really cool. I have a pair of guys that I work with. They're brothers based in Columbia, South Carolina. Mm-hmm. And they hit their year goal like in end of July. They were like, well, we already did our goal for the year. I was like, cool, like take the rest of the year. No. So, they're doubling down and doing even more work. So
there's probably different ways to skin a cat. So there's different goals, but for you, your goal was X amount of doors in 10 years. Mm-hmm. I think you did that in like 3 years.
Yeah, we did in about 3. Yeah.
Is that the kind of the goal you're teaching people, or what's goal setting, right? How does that factor into your plan for people?
So people come into real estate investing. Most people come in because they want some form of freedom, right? So they either want financial freedom or stability, or they want time freedom, and usually the money aspect will give them that time freedom. So, some people come in because they're in a good W-2 job, but they don't have like that retirement plan, or they don't want to be in the W-2 job till they're, 65 or whatever. So their goal is to be able to build a portfolio and build passive income. Then there's people who come in who are working, a shitty job, and they're not happy with how much money they're making, or they hate their lives or whatever, and they want more control. And so they want to create a new source of income and new opportunity that they're able to create themselves. And so those people typically would go down like, a flipping path or a wholesale type path where you're building that active income. And then the other group might be looking to build that passive income. So when I'm talking with a newer investor, it's like, well, what do you need right now? Because they say, well, should I flip, or should I buy rentals, or what should I do? And it's like, well, what do you want? Like, what do you need to do? Ultimately, I think you should do both, right? Like, and whether you're flipping for active income or you're selling real estate for active income and then building wealth through rentals. But, it's like, what do you need? Do you need cash in your pocket, or do you want to build wealth and you're able to wait for that return later? Because the strategy when you're flipping houses and building your flipping empire, it's the same thing. You're doing the same thing. You're looking at the same deals. You're renovating them. You're, refinancing or selling them. You're exiting them in one way or another. So you just decide what you need most. And so that's how you develop your goal. And you do one first. You flip one house first. And then if you want to do a rental, you do that.
On the break, the listeners have gotten this far, you're going to get some really good information here. Abby Grace had a good question. How did we get to so many homes in such a short amount of time? Can you break that down for us?
Sure. So again, my husband and I sat down, and so we went back to goal setting, and I told the group that I was working with, I shared with them our 10-year plan. And, so Nick and I had an idea of what we wanted, but we did sit down and we got really specific with what we wanted our lives to look like in 2030. Like we said, we wanted a house in Aiken at a certain price point with a pool. We wanted this car. We wanted to have X amount of kids. We wanted to have like a landscaper and a cleaning lady. Like we were pretty specific about the things that we wanted, and we determined how much money we needed to have that lifestyle. And from there, we decided how many doors we needed to have, right? So we were going to cash flow. Well, at that point, they were going to all be paid off. So then we reverse engineered that goal. And so, 30 doors in 10 years, it was 3 years, seemed very reasonable. So we sold his primary residence. We had $77,000, I think was the amount. And we were able to buy the first two properties, and we refinanced those, and then we recycled that money. But then we added private money in the mix. So then I went out to like Bob Richards or a Bob Richards, and I said, hey, I need to, I want to borrow $100K to do this property. It's worth this much money. I'll repay you in 6 months or 12 months. And so then we could use either our own cash for a deal, and then we could have 2 or 3 private lenders out at the same time. So when you get there, then you can do as many deals as you want. You could do as many flips as you want, and you can do as many rentals as you want, as long as you have the team and the properties to do it. Like in theory, you have unlimited cash.
In theory, right.
Yeah. So
Okay. And as long as they're cash flowing.
Well, and for that aspect, you do the cash out refinance. So say I have 5 lenders that all have given me $100,000. So I go to each one. Now I've got 5 houses in 4 months. I do a cash out refinance, or 6 months. I do a cash out refinance, and then I can buy another 5. And so now they have mortgages with my local bank. So they're just sitting over there. They've got a mortgage on them. My tenant's paying that mortgage bill, hopefully. And I'm reusing those $100,000 to buy those properties. And so I think I actually looked it up just the other day. In 2022 and in 2023, I think I did, over 20 properties bought and renovated. And for the most part, I was leading those while selling real estate. And I had my daughter in 2022. So,
and how these properties, your payoff goals, have them all paid off in 10 years, right?
So the first group, when we bought at the really low interest rate, they all had a 10-year mortgage on them. So some of them were at almost 5 years in. So we're halfway. And so those ones will be paid off, some of our longer ones. But what you can do at some stage is you can decide to do another cash out refinance. So say you have a big jump in appreciation, like the house values increase a lot. You can always refinance those at any stage. You can put a new mortgage on them. You can pull that cash out, which is tax-free, and you can do that. So initially we wanted to have all of the properties paid off, but now we're like, if we have a big enough portfolio that's cash flowing, is it okay for them to just stay leveraged? And we'll probably end up with a mix, and I think, we'll just sort of reassess as time goes on what we want to do.
Is there a way to pull them all together under one, massive property loan?
You can just refinance into a portfolio loan, and some people do that. So
is that something you've looked at all, or?
We haven't looked at that for our portfolio yet, no.
Okay.
And partly because we have the handful of properties that are at a 4% rate. So with how the rates are doing right now, I don't know that it would work, but the cool thing too is not just the equity that you have in the property. So you have 25%. So your example, you've got 50,000 in this property, right? But every month when that tenant is making a payment, they're paying down your principal as well. So your equity continues to increase every month. You're cash flowing. So it's just this beautiful trifecta of wealth building, hopefully. But there are downsides, tenants and some of that stuff can be hard, but
we're liking the demographics of that midterm furnished rental. I'm loving it.
Yeah,
loving it.
Yeah.
But you have a mix? Do you do Airbnbs as well?
We only have long-term rentals, and partly because it just works with our buy box and what we want to do, and our price point works really well. And the other part is because I haven't wanted to deal with the turnover, extra management, so we haven't. I have thought about it. I've looked at a few, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it.
So when you got your license in 2019, you're finding deals. You're still producing. You're listing homes, working with buyers. What was your let's talk like 2021, 2022. What did your day-to-day look like? Like how much effort were you putting into finding clients? How much time were you putting into finding properties? Is there something you wish you would have maybe done a little bit differently? Or do you think, the end product is very solid, so I'm not surprised if your answer to that was no, it worked great, but.
So 2019, I got my real estate license, and I was training for a full Ironman at the time too. So we did that. And so I think that gave me the endurance. So having that level of fitness gave me the endurance that I needed in my business. So once I finished that, I sort of transitioned that time into real estate. But I've always been one that gets up really early. Like even today, I still wake up at 4 or 4:30. And so during that time, we were hustling. I was hustling a lot. So I was working all the time. I had my daughter in 2022. So that changed things. But over those years, I built up a good team. So I had a really great assistant. I had a great transaction coordinator, and I had a showing partner. And so that was like my key team. So all of our buyers that came in would work with me and would work with Sarah. And my admin kept me straight, and my TC ran all the transactions, and she ran my transactions for my clients, and she ran the transactions for my investing. So that's where that synergy kind of comes in. If you have your real estate license, like all of the stuff that you're doing and looking for clients, you can do for yourself, and you can use all of the, the structure of your day and your business to just both benefit your clients as well as your own goals. And would I have done it differently? Probably. I think I still worked too many hours, probably. But I think it transitioned pretty good.
Yeah. I was saying too many hours, but look at the end product of like those hours, right? Do you think you could have done things more? You think you'd done more with less?
I don't know. I think there's definitely some things, of course, in hindsight that I would have done differently. Like I think we could have set up better operations with even some of our project management with our flips at that time. We probably could have implemented some better marketing. Like I didn't do a ton of like marketing, more organic marketing for my real estate business. Most of that was, was either bringing leads in or a bit of a hustle to get clients in versus building a good foundation of marketing, which you've done. So I probably would have done that differently. But yeah, and after I had my daughter, I transitioned more just strictly into investing just for time purposes, because being a successful real estate agent it can be tough on your time if you want to be good at it. So, right? You're laughing because you know it's true. Yeah.
Work hard, not smart, right? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And I mean, and I can do that too, right? Sometimes you take it all on, you get the job done, you do what you need to do. And it's not always the right way, but whatever works.
And we're going to tie this up with the last two questions.
Okay.
And one will be on investing, and for our first time starting investors, what the heck do I just need to drop today and start doing tomorrow if I want to go buy 20 homes in the next 5 years? What do I got to do? What should I do right now? What would you do? Take them all away from you. You're starting over from scratch. You got $100,000 in your pocket in this market. What are we doing? What's our game plan for next 6 months just to get going?
So you got 100K.
100K.
So one, if you're in our local market, you've got enough money to do it. So start analyzing deals. Like your search parameters, you need to stay under 100,000. So you need to be buying something for less than that with your renovation costs. So you need to start analyzing deals. If you're in a more expensive market, then you need to find a market that will allow you to do it with the 100K. Okay. You need to analyze deals. You can get my deal calculator. We'll give you a link so they can use that if they want.
We'll put it in the description of the podcast.
Put it in the description. Yep. And start analyzing deals and making offers. So, and just know that it's possible. You can read the Burr book by David Green. That's what we did. And just listen to other people who've done it before. I mean, I'm not special or smarter than anyone else. So if we could figure it out, you can too. So.
Okay. And then final question. What is something that you are most excited about in real estate in the next 12 months?
Interest rates coming down. No. Yeah, I mean, I think that will be good. We're looking to build up our rental portfolio again. We kind of took a bit of a break ourselves. So to optimize our portfolio. So buying some more properties.
So these interest rates really put some brakes on people. Sounds like I've heard that from you. I've heard that from a lot of people.
So I think
last year.
So the interest rates didn't stop us from investing because some of my best cash flowing properties are from when the interest rates were at the highest that they've been. So for us, it wasn't really the interest rates. It was, we got to a certain amount of doors that we said, okay, like let's make sure all of this is operating so that it's the most profitable it can be.
I got you.
But a lot of investors that I talk to, they don't believe that properties will cash flow at the higher interest rate, and that's just not true. So like go and run your numbers on it. I mean, there are some people in there's certain markets that it might not if you're at a higher price point, but we're buying cash flowing properties at these higher interest rates. So
Okay.
just kick that excuse out of here.
Kick it out.
That's right.
But lower interest rates do make things a little bit easier.
Lower interest rates will be better. They should cash flow better. But then the market's going to be more competitive because more people are going to be out buying. Now, both, right? There's going to be more people out buying, but there should be more people who are selling because they feel more comfortable to sell and give up the interest rate that they had.
We're pretty close to that. It's like 5.4, 5.5%. And majority of the market will start to be able to shift their current equity into a new property and keep their monthly payments relatively close. There's an article on KCM about we're like 100 basis points away, whatever the heck that means.
Is that going to be? That's going to be like the next Armageddon of real estate.
That's like if it gets to like low five, mid to low fives, it's like a lot of people they just do the math.
That's right.
I'm telling my team.
Will you give me a job on your team when that happens?
You don't want that. You don't want that, I promise you. But I would absolutely take you.
Okay. That was the answer.
But that's what is just start. Now is a lot of times start doing the math. We're saying, hey, start doing the math. Get with the lender. I think we're heading that direction. Get prepared because you want to be on the front end of that, not the back end.
Yeah. And I think that's. I'm sorry if this is like deviating from your final question, but I think that is what it comes down to, is that people need to just have an understanding of how the interest rates are going to affect them, whether it's for buying their primary residence or an investment property.
Exactly.
And you have to just look at the numbers and put it on paper, and you might go, okay, this is going to work or not. So
there's going to be an adjustment period. Now, I think that buying in that adjustment period is going to be where the best deals are had, some of the best opportunity.
Yeah.
So good. Stephanie, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. How do we reach you? If we have any extra questions, how do we contact you?
You can find me on Instagram. Is probably the easiest place. And so it's at flippin.empire is where you can find me. You can find me online there. And send me a DM. I'll answer you if you have any questions.
She will. Confirmed.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the best place to find me.
Good. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate the heck out of it. It's been a pleasure. Hope the listeners, you've learned a lot. If you haven't, you need to go back through and unplug your ears because there's some good stuff today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.